Om Shanti, good morning and good evening. A very warm welcome to all of you, and especially our dear brother David, who have joined us all the way from Mount Abu, India. Let us all wave our hands to welcome brother David. Whoever can turn on the videos, please do.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome, brother David. It's a really great fortune to have you today. As most of us, like whoever has gone to Mount Abu, Madhuban, have met Brother David, and I've always felt that depth of silence from Brother David. And tomorrow is the International Day of Peace, and we thought of, just extending our heartful invitation to Brother David, and he kindly accepted it. It's a little late for him there in India, but still he made time for us. So thank you so much, Brother David, for joining us. Brother David was born in Australia, in Adelaide, South Australia, and he's a self-taught artist. So he has, self-taught himself, as you were seeing, he's very amazing. He's experimental musician and a very deep spiritual thinker. He's been practicing the Raj Yoga meditation since 1984. So it's more than 35 years or so. And he's based at the Brahma Kumaris headquarters in India for the past almost 25 years. And he coordinates the art department over there in Gyan Sarovar. He creates large airbrush canvases and digital designs of spiritual images and portraits. Especially all our meditation centers across the world have those paintings. And today we were discussing about colors, and we were just, thinking how Brother David has that art that, to express the silence of God's love into the world through his art. He has a collection of over 50 unusual and diverse musical instruments, and experiments with creating soundtracks and music for meditation that take us from sound into deep inner silence. So today is our fortune to have Brother David with us, and he'll share with us his experiences, and then he'll take us into meditation. So thank you, Brother David. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Zuba. Thank you. So it's wonderful to be here. You can all hear okay? My sound is okay?
Yes, brother.
Yeah? Okay, great. Yeah, so this is a very interesting topic, this aspect of sound and silence. And I know silence is something which is very sacred. We know when we go into a place, into a worship place or into a meditation place, that silence is very important to begin with. And what happens in silence, it's like it's a space where I get a very, very clear mirror of myself. And I think we've all had the experience when we're very focused, we're very concentrated. These aspects of the mind where when that's happening, we find actually there's a lot of silence, internal silence. And with that silence, many times great ideas emerge, insights emerge to something which may have previously before not been visible. And it's almost like, you could say it's like a lake. When a lake is completely still and there's that sort of mirror effect on the lake, it reflects something. We can see our image in that. And it's the same with silence. When we go more and more into this space of silence, we get a very clear mirror of ourselves and who we are, and even what is our purpose and what I need to do for myself and of course for others. I know in music, in a music sense, they say a lot of music, it's actually the silence between the notes, which is almost as important as the sound itself. And it's like when we create something, it's like when it's born out of that silent space, of course it becomes divine, because that divine space is that space of silence. And being a meditator for, nearly 36 years now, I think it is, I remember sort of in my early days, I had the wonderful opportunity to have to live in an environment where it was really completely silent, and completely silent of all, I would say, unnatural sounds like motor cars, any machinery. All these things were absent of all these things. Even, I mean, there's just a few people, but it was like an experience of silence, which I thought truth is within this space of silence. I didn't really have any spiritual knowledge at that point, but there was a real feeling that somehow in this silent space, truth was. And I was pondering this sort of, wow, there's this silence. And then I remember at this time I was learning guitar. And when I'd play a note on the guitar, it would bounce across the other side of this valley and get reflected back to me. And in that process of the sound sort of going out and bouncing back, there was this space of silence. And I thought, that's truth must be in this space. And I guess sort of from this experience, it was like, as brother was saying, you know, with instruments, many instruments have been gifted to me over the years. And I really feel that it was initiated by this experience in this silence, and a feeling how to use this sound to create silence, this sacred space of silence. And if we look at, even if we look at in the Western mythology of, like if you say in the Western cultured religions of Christianity, probably Christianity especially, how there's this, this portraying of the angel figure, or many images of angels. And the angels, if we look at these images of angels, there's always this aspect of music. If you see the ancient pictures of angels and drawings, a lot of them are shown with a musical instrument. You've probably seen that, of the harp, of a trumpet, of like a horn or something, or violin, or some instrument. So I feel that as meditators and of practicing meditation, the more we go into this aspect of silence, then whatever sound we create, and now this can be through music, it can be through words, it can be through initially vibration of ourself, of our thoughts, that actually will create a divine sound. Now, whether that's felt through vibration, because as we know, sound and music, it's a vibration, yeah? And however we actually initiate that process, that will actually have an impact, of course, on others. And of course, it means if I'm in a deep meditative state, and then I perform this action, then of course that's going to attract likewise. And of course, if we look at in the music world with sound, I guess there's as many varieties of sound as there is people, or as souls. Whoever is creating the music, they will be creating it out of the spiritual stage, you could say. They're actually in at this time when they're creating that. And as we know, that if we're a meditator or in that, already working on ourselves to come more and more back to our original nature, then of course whatever we do is gonna be in that vibration. So naturally in meditation, we're not going to put on a heavy metal. Yeah. We're not going to put on a heavy metal music. Maybe if we have children and that, they might love that or whatever. And sometimes as the parents, when they listen to this music, they think, you know, what is that? You know, and maybe we won't even call it music, because music is something which is different to sound, even though it's the same. But we could say music is an array of notes which you could say can be in harmony, can be in tune, can be a feeling of upliftment through that song. I mean, many times, isn't it? We're given a message that, okay, if you're feeling a little bit down, or if you're feeling a bit depressed or a bit sort of whatever, put on your favorite music. And when we put on that music, just the vibration of that will actually pull us up. And we feel sort of light and sort of, because most of the time it will take us out of the thinking process. Because many times what happens when if we're disturbed, or if we've got something on our mind, we can't stop thinking of something. Of course, music is something where we can let go and go into the experience of that. So it works in that way. But also, depending on the vibration it's created. Now, some music will be such where we listen to it and it'll be great, and we might be a bit of a beat in it, so we, you know, start tapping our foot and sort of maybe even want to dance. And there's some music which will take us more into a more profound or deep reflective space. And I'm sure, excuse me, I'm having the experience of, so I'll just get some water. Excuse me a minute.
Sure, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure when we're really in that experience of the music, some music will take us really to a reflective space. Some music will, like I was saying, to dance or be a beat or something there. But then if it's really created out of an instrument stage, because the instrument stage is, you know, when we do things now, if we're really the instrument, and, you know, we can use the parallel between this two of musical instruments and the self being an instrument, which you could say is like music as well, because whatever comes out of our mouth, whatever comes out of our thinking, it's a vibration, yeah? So this will be like, you could say, a divine music or a divine song. We're singing, we're all singing. And so, and yet when we look at it, okay, music is something, when we're playing music, or if we play an instrument or something, usually what happens in the early stages, I know this has been my experience, that, and today I was just listening to a beautiful talk on living a life without fear, or being in a world, living in a world without fear. And I know for myself, this whole thing of music was something in the beginning where sometimes it's very hard to express that in a true sense. We may feel very self-conscious. We may feel, I know for myself, I wouldn't play anything if somebody was in the room. You know, I'd play alone and I'd play for the divine. But as soon as anyone would come into my presence or my aura or my space, I would stop. And sometimes I would think, why is that? When, you know, I love music. If I hear someone playing music or my favorite artist or singing or something, you feel that, wow, wouldn't it be wonderful to be like that, where you're totally fearless of whoever's in front, or who if there's an audience of 2 people or 1 person or 100 people or 1,000 people or a big concert, how to be in that space where you're totally the expression of yourself and not affected by that vibration in front of you. And I used to think, you know, like sometimes I'd get up to play something and, you know, even half an hour before I'd go on stage or something, you know, the heart would be going boom, 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 you know, or sort of getting a sweat, and then I'd get on stage or something and I'd miss the chords or miss the tune. And I think, you know, I play this hundreds of times perfect, but soon as getting up on the stage, being nervous and all these things, I used to think, you know, why is that? What's the reason of that? And I guess this has been a journey, and I think like anything we do, you know, the more and more we do it, the more experienced we become, and of course, then things become more natural like that. So it's the same looking this in meditation, to sit in meditation and go into that space of silence. Sometimes we'll start that process, and many times there'll be so many thoughts, we can be so far away from that space of silence in the mind. And then we might get to a point where the mind quietens, and then of course we get a glimpse of that space of silence. And when we get a glimpse of that space of silence, of course, we understand that in that space, that's the space where that, you could say, all attainments or all our part is almost, like you could say, revealed in that sense, because it's like it's a mirror of who we are. And I know in this space as well, many people that have, you could say, that have had experience of the other side, or the soul's experienced being out of the physical form, they've all had this experience of this complete space of silence. And almost in that silence, we're connected actually with everything and everyone. And of course now, what's happening, we're going into that space now in our practice of meditation to experience that divine space of silence. Of course, there will always be sound and silence. We come into sound, then we go into silence, we come into sound, we go into silence. But the more and more we have the practice and deep practice of almost, it's preserving as well, preserving that energy, because sound, when we come into speaking, that's an aspect of energy. Yeah, and it's like, the more we have the less we come into sound in that sense, the more we have the chance of experiencing that silent space. We all know when we have a lot of thoughts and there's a lot of activity or something's disturbing for the self, then there's no clarity of anything. If anything, it can be confusion, not sure of what direction, where to go, or what's next. And of course, especially at this time now, where there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, it's like, I'm sure, I know here in Madapan, it's been such where there's been more and more attention on the self and self-study, meditation, yoga bhattis. It's just automatically, when there's the less activity, and this has been like a wonderful opportunity, especially this time now, where we've had all this time, like months, where there's been no programs from outside. So we come back to ourself. What do I need to do for myself? And many of the souls here have gone into doing things which maybe they've never had the chance of doing before, because of the lockdown. Because when we don't have the normal, our service, whatever service role we're playing here, of course, if it's always to deal with looking after others and the guests that come, and then all of a sudden they're not there, then we have this time. So to be using this time for that, and I know for myself, it's probably gone more towards the music side than the painting, because it's always been a feeling okay, to use, I guess, more of the time to create something or create sounds that will actually pull us into that space of silence. So yeah, sound and silence, it's one of those things that's been talked about, I think, a lot. And I know when I've had the experience and practice of even like silence retreats and things like this, I think for those of us who've had the experience of some days of silence, how many things become very, 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 very clear in that space of silence. And, you know, I know, you know, the Supreme Soul, you know, says, okay, this silence actually is golden, you know, in that space of silence is golden. And if we look in the future new world as well, I mean, what is it? What space are we in that future world? We don't come into much sound. There's no need to come into much sound because the communication is happening through the eyes. It's happening through our thoughts, and that is ample enough. And it's at this time now where we're learning that process of how to use the mind, how to use our thoughts, and of course, as much as we can to remain in the silent space. And I think many of us must have had this experience where when we've gone into that space, we really feel like a lift from Baba in that space, because it pulls us closer to our original state. I mean, if we look at our original state also, what is it? What is our original state? Where do we come from? We're coming from this dimension of complete silence. Yeah, soul world is a place where it's just a suspended animation of the soul in a complete dormant state of silence. So now at this time, as much as we go further and further into that experience of silence, then of course everything becomes clearer and clearer, especially for this time now. Of course, the whole aspect of fear disappears, you know, because when we experience that deep state of silence, of course, that's experience of our original home. And many people, which I was saying a little bit before, which have had out-of-body experiences or near-death experiences, they feel that, you know, that there's this dimension which is, they all feel completely at home, and it's very clear to them that that's actually or almost more real than this physical plane. So yeah, so this has been a wonderful time to experience that, and I know with the experience of playing music, one of the things which I was saying a little bit early on, being the instrument, this was something that for me was probably the biggest lesson, and probably one of the biggest lessons I had to learn, because until I actually experienced just being the instrument, I was always previously to that being affected by, you could say, what other people would say, what other, you know, comments from others, whether praise or whether negative comments and all that. I'd be so sensitive to those comments, because when we're unsure of who we are, we'll always be affected by the vibration and atmosphere of things outside ourselves. And I think for the arts, especially the arts, when we're practicing, when we're developing different skills, and this, I remember times somebody would say something negative and I'd just stop playing, completely stop, because that'd be a comment and I think, oh yeah, it is true. You know, that's the same you know, 5 or 6 chords I've been playing for years. And I used to think, what, you know, to be that sensitive, and even with that sensitivity, knowing that, you know, one has to go through with this process. You know, I remember this morning, Charlie was doing this talk on fear, and he said the two biggest fears usually people express, and he said this is all around the world, was public speaking and performing something or singing or something like this. So when I'd have these experiences, I think, you know, why is that? Why does that actually happen? And I remember one time when I had the experience of myself really just being the instrument. It was a meditation, early morning meditation, and I remember sort of being very, very, very concentrated. And in that concentration, it was like I was just focused. I had a little candle and I had a little chrome ball, and that was my focal point while I was playing. And I realized with that concentration power, I also felt that I was really just an instrument. And afterwards, after this program, I remember looking up and I was surprised, a little bit surprised, that the hall had nearly 800 people or 850 people in that hall. And I had no idea that many people were sitting in the hall, because I was just focused on this, totally concentrated. And I remember a few people come up, and one person come up and said, when you started to play, I thought it was this person's music. You were playing someone's music. They thought they'd heard this music before. And then when I was listening to it, and they realized just some 10 seconds or whatever, short time afterwards, that it wasn't what they'd heard before. It was similar, but it was different. Then they stopped the thinking process. And then he said, then I experienced going into this space of silence because I'd stopped the thinking. But initially it was like thinking, okay, who's this music? I've heard this music before. And for me, it was the experience of just being that instrument. But then I realized in that space, then I was then free of all the comments that come up. It was like, it was just really the feeling, okay, there's that divine, and then you're the instrument, almost like you could say like the angel figure, and you're just performing that part, and completely, you could say egoless as well, where it's really the feeling that that divine is doing that through you. And then the comments didn't affect anymore. So this was something which was like a turning point, because I realized, wow, everyone has their own specialties, everyone has their own talents, but how much can we be in that space of being the instrument? Because the instrument means you're free, and the angel as the instrument means you're part of this world, but also your feet are above it. So the intellect is above the praise, the defamation, and then of course you can just be 100% yourself in that process. So that was something which was, yeah, was very, very, I thought, very special at that time. So and then the whole feelings of this memorial of the angels, how they're playing these instruments, because it's like it's a divine song that's happening. And then those that are subtle and having the experience of that silence actually can pick up on that. You could say it's almost like a celestial sound from the heavens, or celestial sound, which is like, that's pulling and pulling and pulling towards that divine space or that divine silence. And it's funny how there's this parallel with that. You know, we say sound, how to use sound to create silence. So this metaphor is very interesting. Sometimes it's like, you know, we go into a space and we feel like we don't need to come into sound. If we're fortunate enough to have whatever work we have or whatever part we're playing where we have that, where we can use that silence, it's a blessing. I know sort of years ago in Madhaban, and I'd see Daddy Kumaka in the courtyard, and I'd wonder, I thought, whenever I'd see her there, one after another, people would be coming up and meeting Daddy. And I was thinking, you know, like, I don't see Daddy in sort of sitting a lot in meditation or in the meditation halls and that. And of course, she probably did many of this in the early days, as you know, in the 14 years of the Bhatti, these souls did a lot of meditation and introspection. But when I observed Daddy in Madhaban, I was thinking, well, how does she keep this such a stage, you know? And and I remember speaking to Daddy, and when people would meet Daddy, they'd really feel that Daddy was with them in that present state 100%. So when you were in front of her, it was like 100%, you were the only one in front of her, and she'd deal with that. And then the next moment, she'd be beyond. She'd be with Baba. So I was thinking how to manage that, where you can be doing the action 100%, and then the next moment still in that silent space. So that is also a practice which I feel is very important now, because it's like, if we're able to be 100% in whatever task we're doing, then there's no other margin for anything else. And I think we've all had experiences like this, when if we're doing something we really love, what happens in that process? Where time disappears, yeah? If we really love what we're doing, sometimes you just look at the time and think, wow, hours have gone past or whatever, and I've just totally lost in that process, and it's almost time is irrelevant. And of course, the opposite goes as well. When we're doing something we don't really want to be doing, what happens? You know, we keep looking at the clock, you know, when's this over, and we're not present at all. If anything, our mind is looking ahead at this time when this particular part's going to finish, because I want to get on to do with something I want to do. And I think this is one of the things which I know there's been many philosophers and many very prominent people or well-known people that, you know, like state this quote of, you know, until we find something we really love doing, that's really the part I love doing, then we have to keep looking for that, you know. If we can find that early in life, the better. But how many times, how much you could say we do things which are just a means to get to something else, yeah? The world as it is today is based on, you could say this old world is based on credit and getting all these things, and then getting in the system where we're working to pay for this, pay for that, pay for the other, and all this like a whole wheel. And when we get to a point where do we get to the point where I'm doing what I really love doing? And that might be just a little glimpse on the weekend where I have some free time, and then I do my hobby or my passion of what I like doing, but the rest of the time may not be like that. So it's almost like how to get back to a point where whatever I'm doing is really what I want to be doing at this time. And I think in a spiritual sense, it's like you could say we really flower when we find that passion, what we love doing, especially at this time now, being meditators and in this whole part of this creation of this new world. I mean, look at the time now. I mean, we're in this, like today and tomorrow is in this International Day of Peace. It's like, how much am I really in that space of peace in everything I'm doing? You know, not just sitting for meditation, but how can I be in peace when I'm doing whatever action it may be? And sometimes it's like we forget the simplicity of that as well. I remember sort of at this time when I lived really in the outback in Australia, and the simplicity of what I had in my world. You know, it was like I needed shelter. That was important. So I built a place out of trees from the forest. So I had the shelter. Very, very simple. I mean, the simplest as you can imagine, just from trees, nothing else. Then I had water from the spring. I had some food, and then I grew some food. So I had the shelter, water, food. And actually, basically, that was all I needed. It would come down to those three things. And in that experience was like, of course, there was this huge amount of time which I discovered, which was this discovery of actually the space of being. And I'd forgotten that before that. I'd forgotten that in my working life and all that. I thought work was like you went to work, you started at 7 o'clock in the morning, I finished at 4 in the afternoon. You had your morning tea, your lunch, your afternoon tea, and that's what I knew of a working world. But in this space, it was like you did what you needed to do for your, I wouldn't even say survival, but it was like, it was very, very, very bare minimum. But then there was this space of being, and it was in that space of being which I think we all discover who we really are in that space of being, because it's a space where you don't have to be doing something in particular. You just can enjoy, you know. Sometimes, you know, they say, oh, if you walk A to B, do you have time to smell the flowers or look at the flowers or look at the wonder of the nature around us, you know? Or is it that I'm going A to B to get to somewhere, and this is just a means to get there? And of course, this is, I think, one of the big illusions is also of the aspect of this future, because, you know, where is the future? You know, where is the future really? Has anyone ever really been in the future in a true sense? I don't think we have. We're only ever really in this very present moment now, or we only actually have the present moment now. And that present moment now actually goes with us through our whole life. We don't actually move out of that. Of course, with our mind, we think about the future and we think about next week, tomorrow, what I'm going to do, but we do all that process in the present moment. We never can do it tomorrow, because tomorrow comes back to where we are right now, yeah? So how is it that we've gone so far away from that experience of really being 100% where we are? Because in that space we never have we can never come into the thing of thinking, I'll do this tomorrow. It doesn't. That becomes less and less and less. If you have the thought, you do that now. You have the thought, you do it now. And then all the things which are, there might just be a glimpse of something, but it's not like, you could say probably the planning part of that process disappears, because you're moving more and more in that, making the most of the moment, of each moment. And when the thought does come, then you put that into action. I know when I've heard experiences of even Brahma Baba's days where, you know, he'd say, okay, the thought, word, and the action become one. You have the thought, the speaking, and then the action will be a very close space of time. And that means that where really the mind is more and more in that space of silence. We're more and more sitting in silence for a long length of time, and then a thought comes, and then that thought is then put into action. So it's not like having, you know, we can't have thousands of hundreds or thousands of thoughts of, you know, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I want to do the other, and I want to get this, I want to get something, and then think I'm going to be able to put all that into action now. That's not possible. But if a thought comes out of that silent space, then I'm able to put that into practice now, because it's like, it's the next step, what I have to do. And this is something which is, you know, many people that go through a crisis situation, you know, that, you know, in the psychology sense, they say, okay, just take one day at a time. Yeah. You have one day, you start your day and you do what you have to do, and just go through step by step by step, not think about tomorrow or anything about outside of what you have to do now. And we can deal with that 100%. We can all deal 100% what we have to do in this present moment. We all have that ability. What we don't have the ability to do is to do something tomorrow, because it doesn't exist. We can't do it. We can worry about something. Oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? If I don't get this, what about my job, my money? And I don't have this, I don't have that. But in a true sense, when we remain in the present, we can be surprised of what actually comes to us. And many times those things, you know, how many times we've worried about something, and then when that event comes about, something comes about where it just falls into our lap. We think, my God, you know, I was worried about that for so much time, and then all of a sudden when that come about, it was just there, it was gifted, or almost like a gift that come out of someone come along. I remember hearing stories in the early Yagya days in Madhaban, where, you know, the early days was the beggary days, and there was no money, at a point where there was no money. And then, you know, like literally, you know, Baba to feed hundreds of people, and no grain, no wheat, no nothing in the Bandara, you know. And Baba had that faith that that would come. And then, of course, on the very last day, when everything runs out, there's a check in the mail or some money comes, you know. So that type of faith in the self and in that present moment in silence, everything we need actually will come about, everything, because it's fixed in that process of coming back to that silent space. We don't have to think or worry about how that will be or how that will come. And I know this in the art sense. It's like, if you read the stories of famous musicians, artists, painters, writers, poets, all of these people, they just had ordinary jobs. There was no sort of like, sometimes we think, oh, you know, we look at an artist and we think, wow, you know, like, wouldn't it be great to be like that? And the world maybe they live in. But it's never really like that. A lot of them share their story and say, oh, I just put in, if it's a writer, they just say, oh, okay, I just put in half an hour or hour every morning of writing. Then after whatever, 5, 10, 15 years or more, whatever, then all of a sudden, you know, they might have written a book and it become known or something or whatever, but they had the process where they just consistently did that action, did that process, what they love doing, and all of them, it was like really what they love doing. And sometimes this is also, many people can come along and maybe try to discourage that as well. Oh, what are you doing that for? You've been doing that for so long. It's, you know, what are you not earning anything from it? But in a sense, earning something is usually related to money or this or position or power or whatever. But when we're doing it in that process of what we love doing, of course, that is actually the fulfillment is within that process. And then whether money comes along, whether position or anything, that's irrelevant. The process of doing it, that is what actually the soul feels that attainment through that. And then it doesn't matter because it's what we love doing. And of course, as BKs, we're doing whatever to help in this whole world recreation, you know. So we have to be in that space, you know. I remember, you know, in the early days doing service, sometimes we think, oh, we have to do service and there's a project on and we're doing that, and we go over our limit, we go over our time, we get, you know, burdened by it, we get pressured by it. And, you know, sometimes we think, is this really service, you know? And I think we all have to experience that, because isn't it true? No, once, if we don't know ourselves, then we usually go into these things and do these things, which then we can become out of balance. And then we might even get to a point where we think, no, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. Yeah, that type of mentality, and think, no, I'm, you know, and of course, why is that? You know, when we say that, it's because we become out of balance. And we're doing things maybe out of fear. If I don't do this, what are the others going to say? What will they think of me? Many things that come back to when we're not really in our true nature and our true part. We're not sure. So naturally we get influenced by this one, and we can go to that one, and we think, oh, I've this service, that service, this service, and then think, okay, the more service I do, you know, Baba says do service, so I'm doing this, this, and this. But then what is the real true service? Is me being as much as possible in my original nature. And that can be service without saying a word. You don't have to say anything. Someone can just have a glimpse of you, yeah? And just a glimpse of you in that space of peace, in that space of bliss, in the feeling of attainment, that connection with Baba, the silence, just everything will be something which will pull souls towards, because actually everyone wants to be in that space in a true sense. Who wants to be burdened by anything? Who wants to be any sort of burden or whatever? Well, no one wants to really, but to experience and be in that space, it's a constant process. And experiment. Also, we have to go up, we have to come down. I know sort of for many years being around Janky Daddy, how, you know, it didn't matter what any souls did or however they were in the past, Daddy would always see them in the present moment and give such, you could say, upliftment for the soul. And see almost their future part, or their highest part, always to see that highest part. I know sort of at one point, I remember in the early days of meeting, a personal meeting in Madhaban, in Om Shanti Bhavan, and Baba was saying this blessing. I think this must have been 86, something like that, 1986. But when Baba was giving this blessing, you're sitting right in front of Baba, and it was almost like what Baba was saying was so far ahead of what I was really experiencing that I was almost like I was looking around behind. Is Baba talking to me, or is he talking to someone else? Because it was something I just didn't see at that time in a clear sense of Baba was seeing. So many times it's like that in ourself. We don't see our higher part and what that really is. And I remember this one particular meeting was about, actually it was in the early days in Madhaban. I used to get up and in those days we used to have nearly a cultural program every 3 days. And I remember I used to get up and play some flute or guitar and something, and I was so nervous at doing this. I remember getting up one time with a flute, and I was so nervous with a flute that was going, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, like the bottom lip was going like this, but Baba actually spoke. He said, "Oh, just as you receive all attainments from the Father, keep singing these songs of attainments." And everyone in the audience laughed because they were mostly foreigners. And for the last 3 days or 1 week before that, I'd got up twice and done some song on guitar. So Baba had seen this and he said, "Oh, keep singing these songs of attainments." And he said, "You sing songs, don't you?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, keep singing these songs of attainments." But I know even from that moment, probably 20 years or more, even after that, even maybe longer, that still that was something which was like, you know, and I think it's to do with our, I guess, original nature, how we can completely be ourselves and have 100% self-respect in that, of being myself, that I am an individual. There's no one else like me. There's no one else that can play my part. And when we have that for ourselves, we also have that then for others. We can see others in that same mirror of everyone's unique, everyone's individual. No one has the same part, a complete acceptance for everyone and everyone's part. And no expectation, no thoughts that what they're doing is not right or wrong. All this type of attitude completely disappears when we're in our original nature, because we see that. We see really the game as the game. It's like even now we look in the world, you know, when we're really in our original nature, how do we see things? We see it as a game, no? We see it as drama. It's just playing out. It's not. I remember Bridge Mohan by saying, you know, he had a lovely quote, one of his classes. He said, you know, what's right is right and what's wrong is right. If we look at drama, is drama like that? We don't say, you know, this is the wrong part or this one's doing the wrong thing. It's just the soul that's playing out their part. But to be that firm and that stable in that awareness means we really have to be in our true state. Otherwise we can't, we'll think there's something wrong, or something's wrong in the drama, or should be another way. And we don't even see drama at that point. We just see the situation. We think, oh, that's not right, or they're doing this, or they're doing this to me, or something that's seemingly outside that's getting done to me, which is also complete illusion. It's not like that. It's like they're just playing their part, and I'm taking inside of me my own thoughts and interpretation of that. That's what's actually causing the sorrow or the problem for myself, is how I see that particular action. And that's always when we've forgotten who we are and the game we're in at this particular moment. We can never be deceived by that if we're really in our natural state, because we're all the things Baba's saying, to be the angel, detached and loving, detached observer, kalpa kalpa, like realize that whatever's happening is nothing new. And we can actually be in that space when we're in that awareness completely. And then it's like, what happens then? The complete joy of the game becomes real. Then it becomes really like the game. It's like, you know, they're just playing this part. And of course, some things will happen where if we're not in that awareness, what will happen? We'll get surprised. Yeah, surprise thing is when we're not completely in that space, because surprise means, oh, I didn't expect that. You know, when something comes out of the blue, but when we're in that natural state, it comes along, and then we deal with it 100% in that present moment, what needs to be done. And this is a part of, also becomes the reality of the part of being ever ready becomes the reality then too, because when we're ever ready, it means we're ready for what happens at any moment. Not that, oh no, I planned to do this at this time, and I planned to do that, and I was booked to do this at this time, and then something comes in the drama where it throws all that out the door. Am I able to go with that? And of course, when we're really in our true state, we go with that completely. It's like we have an idea, I'm going through this, but if something comes along, I'm not fixed in that future perception of, oh no, it's this time and I have to do this now. So we go completely with that. It's almost like we go out of we have to live in the world that's no doubt with the timings, and there's timings for this and timings for that by clock time, but in the experience of the self, we're completely in a space where we're able to adjust, accommodate whatever comes along in front of us at that particular time. Becomes very easy then. And of course, the accuracy of doing things also becomes more and more, because we have a glimpse of that time. We're completely aware of other people's time and the respect for that, not even to waste someone else's time. I mean, I think sometimes even the word waiting in the Brahman life, what is waiting? You know, I've been waiting for you. What does that mean? You know, when we say I've been waiting, it means that already I'm not, you know, it's almost like it's not a word that really, I don't think, is in our original nature of waiting. We're just a being, though. We enjoy just being, and you make the most of that time. And if that comes along in the right time, or even what we could say wrong time, we're completely adjustable for that at that particular time. So anyway, that's a little bit off silence, but sound and silence, but yeah, interesting part of how we can be more and more and more in silence. So I don't know, how are we off for time? We've been going, is it 1 hour?
Yes, and it's so lovely, and such deep inspirations and words of wisdom. I think so many different ways that you have shared about silence, like it being the mirror where we can see ourselves, and then it allows us to be an instrument. It allows us to be 100% and, you know, and not think about the past or the future, and just the space of just being in the moment. And you shared beautiful stories, you know, of experiences. And I really liked what you said. What is right, but what is wrong is also right, because that's the part of the soul is able to be in that consciousness of just seeing everything as a game, and not being deceived by it. And then also another thing you mentioned about how performing actions, once we are, you know, completely engrossed, and the reward is the action, the process itself. There is no other physical reward that the soul needs to feel full. So this is really amazing. If the thought was, Brother David, if we could open up, and if others would like to ask some questions, and
Sure.
then we can have a little discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Welcome, Sister Lakshmi. We see Sister Lakshmi there. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti Bhaiya.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. I met you almost a long time ago, but what you had done for this soul is really beautiful. I had you do some paintings for my condo, and they're absolutely exquisite, absolutely beautiful. They're still hanging in now I live in an apartment, and they are really beautiful, magnificent piece of artwork. And also I have heard you many times playing the beautiful music for Baba. By the way, I'm Lakshmi and I live in Michigan. And right now, some of us are at the center, Michigan Center. It's still not operating fully. We have three brothers, and one is Brother Bunkim.
Hello.
Hello, it was so nice and touched very deeply with the understanding of drama you just shared. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Welcome.
We have two Paresh Bhais. Paresh Thakur is a CPA. He also does Baba's accounts to a certain extent. You want to say hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
My name is Paresh. I came to USA 33 years ago, and I am in this knowledge since 1970. So this is my golden jubilee year.
Wow. Congratulations. Yes.
A great spiritual journey is still enduring and very fulfilling, And I really liked the way you described the connection between sound and sound is also a basis for or a platform for creating silence, because if you look at the basic notes of Indian music is sa re ga ma pa dha ni sa. That's eight. Eight English 8 is consisting of 2 zeros, and 0 is similar to Shiv Baba's shape. So the music, the fundamental of musical notes is also 8, and there is the importance of 8 in Baba's knowledge, as you know, that 8, the top 8, including Dadi Janki and Brahma Baba, Mama. So the top are 8, then 108, then 16,108, but there is always 8. Even Brahma Baba left for Avyaktavatan on 18th. So there is always the importance of 8 because it's consisting of 2 zeros.
Yes, yes.
That's why you rightfully said that, sound, the music, the basis of all that notes are 8, and that is 2 zeros, so it is connected to Shiv Baba's shape, So you were very right, fully describing that the music is also a platform or a basis for reflecting back towards silence. So that was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have a Kumar. His name is Paresh Kumar. He is a co-coordinator of Michigan. Paresh, we all came here to do karma yoga. That's why we are not in our street clothes. So.
Okay. Wonderful.
David.
Can you?
Om Shanti.
Oh, you have to stand up.
Yeah,
okay.
I guess.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I think with your sound, you talk, all of you, I think all participant goes in their original silence, right?
That's good. That's yes.
Everyone
That's
has
good.
experienced silence through Brother David's sounds, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhaiya. Thank you, Saurabh Bhai, for doing it. And it's so nice to see you, both of you.
Yes, you too, Lakshmi. Yes. Nice
Om
to see
Shanti,
you.
Saurabh Bhai.
Om Shanti, Paresh. So good to see you all.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Very nice. Thank you. maybe feel free to turn on your videos and then you can say hello and your sharings. Shanti.
Hello. Yeah, bolo.
Hello.
Om Shanti Saurabhai, Om Shanti, Mr. David.
Om Shanti.
My husband is here today.
Okay, good.
Om Shanti. We thoroughly enjoyed your discourse on silence and in relation to music, silence, and creativity. So I'm a linguist by profession.
Okay.
And I would like your comments on the relationship between sound, silence, and beauty and the truth. Because in Indian culture, there's a phrase, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, and John Keats, an English poet, a romantic poet, he wrote so many odes, and one of the odes, he says, the truth is beauty and beauty truth. That's all you need to know. So you really brought so many profound reflections on silence, and especially the silent spaces and the music. That was very amazing. That music is more of silence than the sound, and the spaces in between. And also, as a linguist, I would like to add one line, that all languages are created through the outgoing air. We can't make any language when we are breathing in. It's always the breathing out. So music is the same thing. You are not only replicating, rather you are using both, either any breathing or any space. You said so beautifully. So I could internalize what you were saying. And I'm grateful that I was able to tune in. My wife listens to the Saurabhai's lectures sometimes when I'm walking around. I also get glimpses. So thank you very much. We thoroughly feel very, very obliged. And if you could comment on beauty and the truth and music or silence, that would be great.
Mr. Saurabhai.
Yes. Well, I think the beauty is something when we're, when we're able to be really 100% focused, means the beauty is in that process of doing that. Even with, and beauty for someone else, of course, we know that, there's that classic saying in a, Western saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Yeah.
Certainly.
And that's something that, what I know in artwork, I mean, I've been to different galleries and seen different paintings, and you can look at one painting and think, wow, that's fantastic. And then you might be with someone else and they look at that and think, oh, I don't like that, and then the other one they may like and you may not like, but the beauty aspect will always touch someone, someone, and usually it's like, the beauty is something which we just get, it's just like a glimpse of something, or the magic and just the, the wonder of how each one will create something which will be totally unique and different. And whether someone likes or not, or is beautiful for someone or not, that doesn't really matter. But the process of doing that has been, the process has been the art of being that much present in doing that, that there's an energy in that which will touch different souls in different ways.
Very true.
Yeah, because we don't always, we know that now in a real world, what we think is, why is there so much variety of things? In my part, say in art department, we have must be over 120 different images of a point of light. Supreme Soul's only a point of light energy, but what touches one soul in the image of that, when we look at the image form, we know it's something, it's invisible, we can't see Shiv Baba with the physical eyes. But if we have a representation of that in artwork, how we imagine that image of light, and how you might think, oh, there's rays of light coming out, or there's auras which are pulsating out, or it's just a tiny point, infinitesimal point with a glowing orb, all these different images. And that some souls will come in and they fall in love with that particular image of Baba. That's how I see Baba. And some will be with other concept of rays or energy or like this. So it is of course very different for everyone, you know, in that process. And we know that naturally we're all different, so we have different tastes. But definitely when we're put our whole heart and our passion into something we're doing, that's the beauty of being able to do that.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brother David, the thought was maybe you could lead us into some experience.
Yeah, I thought maybe I can play a bit of flute.
Sure, that would be excellent. Yeah.
And I'm backing, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Just I'll set this up a little bit. Just bear with me a little bit, 1 minute. Sometimes it happens like that when we go to play something, it doesn't play. Hang on. Just let me test this.
Sure.
Okay.
Om Shanti.
Yeah, okay, we're almost there. Something's technical. Okay. Just get a flute. So I'll be playing, this is a Native American spirit pipe. So that's sort of very appropriate for you in North America, are you? Or Central America?
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
So let me just try this now. Hopefully we can get something to work, but still, for whatever reason, this happens quite a bit actually, where you have something and you think, why isn't that working? Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I'll play it just acoustically.
Sure.
We can just have some.
Sometimes that you play and playing your part again, just like before. You opened the door, you opened for me. You wanted to be living free. Om Shanti Om, Shanti Om, Shanti Om. Look inside your soul, playing out your role, and everything keeps coming true. You know what's new, for me. You wanted to be living free. Go inside your soul, go inside your mind, the silence there. Om Shanti.
Oh, Shanti, that was beautiful. We can all clap for Brother David. Really beautiful.
Very beautiful. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Oh, thank you for the wonderful opportunity to share.
Thanks to you, Brother David, for especially taking this time out for us. No,
Thank
it's
you so much.
late in the night for you, but still, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, yes.
Thank you so much, Brother David. Enjoyed your music and the song.
Thank you.
Everything. Thank you very much.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Brother David. My subject is music too, so I really enjoyed it. I was singing with your song.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Brother David. It was wonderful
Yes,
to
how you say your name?
Saroj.
Raj.
Saroj and my husband Kaval.
Aha.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Brother David. It was beautiful music. Enjoyed it.
Well, yes. Well, I have a lot of. I use a lot of electronic stuff with the backings with the music too, but that wasn't working tonight. But that's fine. Sometimes it's nice to have simple with just a.
It
And
was
how is
lovely.
just for how is the audio qualities okay?
Yeah, it was okay. It's fine. It was pretty
Okay. It was good, brother. It was good. It was fine.
Because I've been experimenting. I'm just using the iPad, and sometimes I plug all the sound in directly into the iPad. But now it's just the iPad itself without any other connections. So, but okay, it's good.
Thank you. I love your
Brother David, it was wonderful. Your talk was excellent, and your music, and especially when you talked about silence, how you connected that with music, it was really totally inspiring, because I sing and also I paint. I'm an artist also. So kind of, putting that all together into the spiritual language, that made it very, very special. and hopefully you can come back and kind of, give us more input on, how do we put them all together in a little bit more guiding into doing that, I would appreciate that. And I totally kind of, when you said you were nervous to play for few people, then how you kind of be yourself and made it to the big audience. At that time, 100% time disappeared and you were with yourself. That is a really good statement. Then I was thinking the 100% people will disappear, the space will disappear, so everything will disappear and you will be into your own self, so that was kind of a very good statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Bye.
Thank you, Sarabhai.
Thank you.
Also for putting this program together.
Oh, thank you.
Well, good morning to you there, isn't it? It's morning there?
Yeah, it's almost noon now here, brother. Yeah.
Almost noon. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
okay, brother. Thank
But,
you.
a big thank you to Brother David from all of us. So please join me in.
Thank you, Brother David. And thank you so much.
brother. Thank you, Brother David. Hope you can come again sometime.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'd love to see you again. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Om Shanti, thank you, Brother Saurabh, for arranging and for having us listen to Brother David. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Om Shanti, Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Brother David. Convey our regards and remembrances to everyone in the family there in Gyansa.
Sure. Okay.
Archana Ben, would you like to share something? Actually, Archana Ben gave this initial thought to invite you to the program. So Archana Ben, would you like to say some words? Maybe your audio is...
Audio switched off, I think.
Yeah.
How Baba says, when you go in silence, listen to this sound of
Yeah.
the Dukhi Atma. So both are interconnected. And it was wonderful. When you were playing those instruments, I was able to go in silence. At one point, I just heard that.
Okay, I couldn't catch it.
Which I watched. It was a nice telepathy. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Archana Ben. And others would just like to say hello to David. You can just wave or just say thank you. Hello.
Thank you, David Bhai.
Thank you for coming. Very nice program.
It was really nice. We enjoyed, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother David.
Saurabh Bhai, you have, I think, recorded this. Will you put
Yes,
it on?
we'll share. Yeah, we'll share the recording soon.
Yeah, if you can share it, like it'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I missed half of it.
No problem.
Kind of.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Sarabhai.
Thank you. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Om Shanti.
Brother David, when the COVID is better, then please do come over to the United States and visit us all.
Yes, that'd be lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Brother Ocean.
Okay. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
See
You too.
next time.
Good night. Om
Good
Shanti.
night. Om Shanti.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.